My friends, today is a moment where we are choosing to lock in, to commit to showing up for ourselves and for each other in ways that are authentic, vulnerable, and brave. We are stepping into 2025 not as perfect beings, but as real, imperfect humans who have the power to rise. I want to remind you that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a courageous choice. It's the willingness to step into uncertainty with the belief that we have everything we need to keep moving forward. Yes, we might stumble, we might falter, but we will rise. Why? Because every time we choose vulnerability, we choose to live wholeheartedly. Vulnerability is often misunderstood in our society. It's commonly viewed as a weakness, a place where we might break, where we might be exposed. But in reality, vulnerability is where true courage resides. It's in vulnerability that we find the courage to be seen for who we truly are. It's the place where we let go of the armor we carry to protect ourselves from judgment, rejection, or failure. It's the act of stepping into the unknown, not knowing exactly how things will unfold, but trusting that we have the capacity to handle whatever comes our way. When we embrace vulnerability, we're not just showing the world our imperfections, we're showing up as human beings, as individuals who are navigating their journey with honesty and authenticity. The world doesn't need perfection. What it craves, what it truly needs is people who are willing to be real people, who are willing to take risks, to dream big, and to do it all while staying grounded in their truth. Vulnerability is the space where we do the work of personal growth. It's where we open up to learning, to evolving, and to stretching beyond the comfort of our usual selves. When we dare to be vulnerable, we give ourselves permission to grow in ways we might never have thought possible. It's through the messy, uncertain moments that we find our strength. It's the willingness to feel all of it, the discomfort, the fear, the excitement that makes us stronger, more resilient, and more connected to our purpose. In our relationships, vulnerability is the bridge that allows us to truly connect with others. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about showing up and saying, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm here and I'm doing my best. Vulnerability fosters empathy, trust, and intimacy. When we open ourselves up, others are more likely to do the same. It creates a ripple effect where we all begin to see one another in a more compassionate, understanding light. It's not about waiting until we have everything together before we show up. It's about showing up, imperfections and all, and knowing that we are enough just as we are. And here's the thing, vulnerability isn't just something we do in moments of struggle. It's a choice we make in every interaction. It's a choice to be honest with ourselves about what we want, need, and desire in life. It's the choice to say, I'm worthy of love, connection, and success, even if I don't have it all figured out right now. It's a commitment to lean into the uncomfortable, to allow ourselves to be seen even when we're not sure we're ready. The more we lean into vulnerability, the more we discover how capable we are. The more we realize that we don't need to be perfect to be worthy, and that our imperfections don't define us, they make us human. When we show up with vulnerability, we unlock a kind of power that can't be replicated by perfection. It's in the messy moments, in the moments of uncertainty, where we truly find our strength. At the core of our human experience is one undeniable truth: we are wired for connection. We thrive when we are seen, heard, and understood by others. Connection is the lifeblood of our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Yet, in our world that is often dominated by screens, distractions, and superficial interactions, true connection is harder than ever to cultivate. We live in a time where we are constantly busy, yet we often feel lonelier than ever before. And that loneliness doesn't come from being physically alone, but from the absence of meaningful connection. To connect deeply with others, we first need to connect with ourselves. True courage arises when we are willing to show up for ourselves as we are, flaws and all. It takes courage to let people see us fully, without the masks, without the filters, and without the need to perform. When we are brave enough to reveal our true selves, we make space for others to do the same. We create an environment where honesty and openness can flourish, where people feel safe to express their vulnerabilities, dreams, and fears without fear of judgment. But here's the truth about connection. It's not always easy. It requires vulnerability, which, as we've discussed, can feel uncomfortable, even risky. But without vulnerability, there can be no real connection. It's easy to stay in our comfort zones, to interact with others in ways that don't require much of us. But that's not the kind of connection that transforms us. The kind of connection that changes lives is the one where we allow ourselves to be seen. The kind of connection that heals and builds trust is the one where we show up in our messiness, our imperfection, and say, this is who I am, and this is who I'm willing to be with you. Courage plays a huge role in this process. It takes courage to step into difficult conversations, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to take responsibility for our part in any relationship. It takes courage to reach out for help when we need it, to lean into others for support, and to offer the same in return. In relationships, we are called to show up not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. It's easy to be there for someone when everything is going well. But true connection is forged in the fire of adversity, the tough times, the moments of vulnerability, the times when we don't have all the answers but are willing to walk through the uncertainty together. It's important to recognize that connection isn't about seeking validation or approval from others. It's not about fitting into someone else's expectations of us. True connection comes when we feel accepted for who we are, not for who we pretend to be. It's when we feel safe to show up in our entirety without the need to hide or shield parts of ourselves. When we are accepted in our full humanity, we can build relationships that are grounded in mutual respect, trust, and authenticity. And courage isn't just about showing up for others, it's about showing up for ourselves too. It's about having the strength to set boundaries, to protect our own well-being, and to communicate our needs clearly and kindly. It's having the courage to ask for what we need from others and to offer that same kind of honesty in return. Courage is what allows us to take risks in our relationships, knowing that the payoff will be a deeper, more meaningful connection. Without courage, we remain stagnant, stuck in the shallow waters of casual encounters and surface-level exchanges. In the end, connection is what sustains us. It's what helps us move through life's challenges and celebrate its victories. It's what gives us the courage to keep going when things get tough. When we lock into meaningful connections, we aren't just surviving, we're thriving. We are reminded that we are not alone in this world, and that the human experience, though at times painful and difficult, is made richer and more beautiful by the bonds we share with others.
There is a profound truth we often overlook. Perfection is an illusion. It's a myth that we have been sold by society, by the media, by unrealistic standards of success and beauty. But in the pursuit of perfection, we lose sight of something essential, our humanity. The reality is that our imperfections are what make us truly unique. They are the parts of us that are raw, real, and deeply human. It's these imperfections that connect us to each other because they are the things that make us relatable, authentic, and real. When we begin to embrace our imperfections, we start to free ourselves from the suffocating weight of comparison. We no longer feel the need to measure ourselves against someone else's standards or ideals. Instead, we learn to accept that who we are right now in this moment, with all of our flaws, mistakes, and vulnerabilities, is enough. It doesn't mean we stop striving for growth or self-improvement. It doesn't mean we give up on our dreams or stop challenging ourselves to be better. What it means is that we stop using our imperfections as reasons to hold ourselves back, to hide in shame, or to deny ourselves the joy of living fully. Embracing imperfection is a radical act of self-love. It's a commitment to stop punishing ourselves for the things we can't control or change. It's a choice to let go of perfectionism, which is often just a shield for fear and insecurity. Perfectionism tells us that we aren't good enough as we are, and that we must keep striving, proving, and performing in order to be worthy. But perfectionism doesn't lead to success. It leads to burnout, to exhaustion, and to self-doubt. True growth comes when we release the need to be perfect and give ourselves permission to be messy, to make mistakes, and to learn as we go. When we embrace our imperfections, we create space for growth and healing. We stop seeing ourselves as broken or incomplete, but instead as works in progress. Each mistake, each failure, each setback becomes an opportunity to learn, to evolve, and to become more of who we truly are. Imperfection is not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be celebrated. It's what makes us resilient, adaptable, and deeply human. It's also important to understand that our imperfections are not just individual, they are collective. Every one of us is flawed in some way, and that shared humanity connects us. When we embrace our imperfections, we stop viewing others through the lens of judgment. We stop holding others to impossible standards and start seeing them for who they truly are. People who are doing their best, just like us. This shift in perspective helps foster compassion, empathy, and understanding in our relationships. It creates a culture of acceptance where we support each other through the tough times, celebrate the victories, and embrace the imperfections along the way. In many ways, imperfection is where the magic happens. It's in the messy, unpolished moments that we find our true potential. Think about the times in your life when you've learned the most. Think about the moments when you've grown the most. More often than not, it wasn't when everything was perfect or when you had all the answers. It was when you were vulnerable, when you stumbled, and when you allowed yourself to be imperfect. It's in those moments that we discover who we are, what we're made of, and what truly matters. When we embrace imperfections, we unlock our true power. We stop living in fear of failure or judgment, and instead we live with the courage to show up as ourselves, authentically and unapologetically. We stop comparing ourselves to others and start measuring our worth by our own standards. And in doing so, we realize that we are enough, we are worthy, we are capable. Leadership isn't reserved for a select few at the top of the ladder in corner offices or in positions of power. Leadership is for all of us. It's about taking ownership of our own lives, our decisions, and the impact we have on those around us. Every day, we have the opportunity to lead in our own unique way, whether it's in our families, communities, workplaces, or personal journeys. The key to leadership is not about titles or accolades, but about the willingness to step up, to show up, and to make a difference. Daring to lead means embracing the discomfort of responsibility. It's about taking charge of your life and not waiting for someone else to decide your path. It's about taking ownership of your choices, your values, and your actions. We can no longer sit on the sidelines waiting for permission or approval. We must dare to take the lead in our own lives, whether that's making the tough decisions, having the difficult conversations, or stepping out of our comfort zones to pursue our goals. Leadership requires us to be proactive, not reactive. It asks us to be intentional with our time, our energy, and our resources, knowing that every action we take shapes the course of our future. True leadership is rooted in self-awarenessness. It's about understanding who we are, what we stand for, and how we show up in the world. To lead effectively, we need to understand our strengths and weaknesses, our values and motivations, and the way we interact with others. Leadership isn't about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being humble enough to admit when we don't know something, brave enough to ask for help when we need it, and wise enough to learn from those around us. Self-awareness allows us to lead with authenticity. which is the foundation of trust and influence. People follow leaders they trust, and trust is built on honesty, transparency, and consistency. To dare to lead, we must also cultivate the courage to make difficult choices. Leadership often involves stepping into the unknown, facing uncertainty, and making decisions without knowing exactly how things will turn out. It's easy to play it safe, to avoid risks, and to stick with the status quo. But leadership requires us to push through fear, to trust our instincts, and to make decisions that align with our values, even when it's uncomfortable. Leadership isn't about always being popular or making decisions that everyone will agree with. It's about making the right decisions, even when they are hard, knowing that they will serve the greater good in the long run. Furthermore, daring to lead means being willing to fail and to do so publicly. Leadership is not about avoiding failure. It's about using failure as a stepping stone for growth. Every leader, every person who has achieved something meaningful has faced setbacks, disappointments, and challenges along the way. But it's how we respond to those failures that defines us. Daring to lead means being open to learning from our mistakes, to reflecting on what went wrong, and to using that knowledge to move forward with greater wisdom and resilience. The most effective leaders are those who aren't afraid to fall because they know that each fall is a lesson in disguise. Another crucial aspect of leadership is the ability to inspire and empower others. Leadership is not about doing everything on your own or hoarding power. It's about lifting others up, helping them recognize their own potential, and creating an environment where everyone feels empowered to take ownership of their own lives. True leaders lead by example. They are the ones who show up with integrity, who follow through on their promises, and who lift others as they rise. Leadership is about creating a ripple effect, a movement where others feel inspired to lead in their own ways, creating a chain of positive change that spreads far beyond our immediate reach. Daring to lead also requires us to be vulnerable. To truly lead, we must be willing to expose our humanity, the things we struggle with, the challenges we face, and the emotions that come with the journey. Vulnerability in leadership isn't a weakness, it's a strength. When leaders show their vulnerability, they create a culture of trust and openness. They allow others to see that it's okay to be imperfect, to have doubts, and to face setbacks. So, this authenticity fosters connection and encourages others to lead in their own authentic way, creating a community of leaders who are unafraid to show up fully as themselves. In this journey of leadership, there will be moments of doubt, moments when we question our worth or our abilities, but it's in those moments that we must lean into our courage the most. Daring to lead is about trusting ourselves, even when the path ahead is unclear, and stepping into the arena anyway, knowing that we have what it takes to navigate whatever comes our way. Self-compassion is one of the most transformative practices we can adopt, yet it's often one of the most neglected. In our fast-paced world, we're conditioned to push ourselves beyond our limits, to achieve more, do more, and be more. And while striving for success and growth is important, we can't forget that the most powerful tool we have is the kindness we show ourselves when we falter. We all make mistakes, we all face setbacks, and we all experience moments where we feel like we've failed. In those moments, self-compassion is what allows us to rise again. The practice of self-compassion isn't about excusing our mistakes or allowing ourselves to remain stagnant in complacency. Rather, it's about showing ourselves the same kindness, understanding, and patience that we would offer a close friend who is going through a hard time. It's about recognizing that we are human, that we are allowed to make mistakes, and that we deserve grace and forgiveness in the process. This isn't a form of self-indulgence or avoidance. It's a healthy response to the challenges and struggles that life throws our way. Instead of harshly criticizing ourselves when things don't go as planned, we acknowledge the difficulty, honor our efforts, and give ourselves permission to try again without judgment. Self-compassion is also about understanding that our worth is not contingent on our successes, achievements, or outward accomplishments. So often we tie our self-worth to how well we perform, how much we accomplish, or how others perceive us. But true self-compassion means recognizing that we are worthy of love and respect simply because we exist. We don't need to earn our worth or prove ourselves to anyone. We can show up as we are, knowing that we are enough, imperfections and all. And this radical acceptance of ourselves is what allows us to heal and grow, to face our challenges with resilience, and to navigate life's ups and downs with confidence and peace. Building resilience is another vital component of moving through difficult times with grace. Resilience isn't about being invincible or immune to hardship. It's about how we respond to adversity. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to endure difficult times and bounce back stronger. But resilience doesn't happen overnight. It's built through practice, patience, and self-awareness. When we practice self-compassion, we begin to develop a deeper well of resilience. We stop viewing failures as permanent or defining, and we start seeing them as temporary setbacks that we have the power to overcome. Resilience is the inner strength that comes from knowing that even in our darkest moments, we have the ability to rise again, to rebuild, and to keep moving forward. In our culture, there's often a misconception that resilience means powering through adversity without feeling pain or doubt. We are taught to push through, to keep going no matter what. But true resilience isn't about suppressing emotions or ignoring our struggles. It's about embracing them. Resilience means feeling the pain, acknowledging the difficulty, and then choosing to move forward anyway. It's the ability to find meaning in the struggle and to use that experience to propel us toward our future. Resilient individuals understand that life isn't always easy, but they also know that they have the tools to cope, to adapt, and to transform challenges into opportunities for growth. Self-compassion and resilience work hand in hand. Self-compassion allows us to be gentle with ourselves when we're struggling, while resilience gives us the strength to rise again after we've fallen. Together, they create a powerful combination that helps us move through life's challenges with grace, courage, and perseverance. When we treat ourselves with compassion, we acknowledge that we are worthy of love and care, no matter what we face. And when we cultivate resilience, we trust that no matter how difficult the journey, we have the strength to face it, learn from it, and ultimately emerge stronger. It's important to note that resilience isn't a static trait. It's dynamic and evolves over time. It grows with every experience, with every hardship we face, and with every time we choose to rise after we fall. The more we practice self-compassion, the more resilient we become. The more we allow ourselves to feel our emotions, to honor our struggles, and to give ourselves the space to heal, the more we cultivate the inner strength that will carry us through even the toughest times. In times of adversity, it's easy to get caught up in feelings of doubt, shame, or guilt. We may feel like we're not doing enough, like we're falling short, or like we're not strong enough to handle the weight of our challenges. But self-compassion reminds us that we're doing the best we can, and that's enough. It's a reminder that we are worthy of care, that we deserve to treat ourselves with the same love and empathy that we show others. And resilience is about picking ourselves back up, knowing that even though we might stumble, we always have the power to rise again.